Synchronized swimming would not be our strong suit, I don't think.
No.
The four of us?
Yeah.
Hey, don't sell us so short.
Thinking more like water polo.
Yeah.
It's a little late, that's why. It's a little late in the show. We're just waiting to find out when we're live and then when we'll start.
We're clearly interrupting lunch. That's an issue.
My lunch too.
My lunch too. Enjoy.
I know, right?
We are in another world.
Everybody having a good show? You having a good show? Stephen having a good show from your booth?
Fantastic show. Fantastic show.
RMGT? Yeah. Looks
So
always
glad we
packed
came.
over there.
So glad we came here.
So glad. Johnny P?
Always good.
It's always good. You make it good.
Yeah.
I like what they said in the last panel. There is no, it's a no problem.
Right.
I like that. That was a good one. Okay, so we are live at the Printiverse. Very excited to have this panel, and more so that these gentlemen have taken time out of the last day of the show when they're probably running around. They're probably having those final conversations with people who want their time, their face time, to spend it with us, and I really appreciate it, gentlemen. So let me start off by saying thank you very much for that to begin with. All of the companies that you have seen sitting here at this table throughout the show are truly partners. And I call them partners because if they were sponsors, I would have to do everything. I call them partners because they have to do things too. And one of the things that, dare I say, I require of my partners is to share their thought leadership with the community, which is why I have partnered with them to begin with. So again, thank you very much, and thank you to all of the other panelists who have joined us. I'm having a cell phone battery. I wonder if anyone sees me fishing for my cell phone battery. This thing weighs 20 pounds. It was just dragging my cell phone down. Okay, which I have all the questions here. So starting off first, this panel is the drupa effect. What's next is now. I went to my first drupa ever, thank you, in 2016, thanks to my friends at HP. And I actually spent 20 days in Germany. I don't even know how long the show was, because it was 11 days the show, 10 days, 11 days of the show, and 9 days of setting up for it with the page-wide press team. And honestly, I couldn't have prepared my mind for what I saw there. I mean, if it's companies wait to introduce technology at this show, and everywhere you turn is something like you're literally saying, oh my God, I didn't know that could do that. Oh my God, this is perfect for an application for a customer or a customer of a customer, and I didn't even know it was possible with this technology. So this panel is really very important. So let's start off with, please introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about you do, and if you were at drupa, how long were you there? You were all at drupa, correct? Is everyone at drupa? Okay, and if you were at drupa, tell everybody how long you were there and what you were doing there. So let's start off with you, Ryan, Infotrends.
Sure. So Ryan McAbee, I am the Associate Director of the Production Software Service at Infotrends, and what that really means is that we take a look at everything that's required for print production from a software perspective, and try and keep our pulse on what's going on, what's new, what's next, and everything related to software. And I was at drupa for, I believe, 7 days. It's kind of blurry at this point, but I believe it was 7 days.
Skaven Avanti.
It is all a blur when you go to drupa. I hope everybody in the printing industry gets an opportunity to go to drupa. It really puts everything into context. That entire exhibition center known as the Messe has 20 plus buildings. The HP one that Deb was hanging out at was the largest building there. Avanti is a print MIS provider, partnered with all the offset and digital companies out there. We were actually in both the HP booth as well as the Ricoh booth. And to give you good context for what goes on at drupa, to get from the HP booth to the Ricoh booth is a 25-minute walk. So you have to do a lot of planning. I was there. I was in Europe for 11 days, of which I think 8 of them were drupa days.
RMGT.
Hi, my name is Chris Manley, and I work for Grafco, and I'm here representing RMGT. This was my 5th drupa, and we were there from 2 days before the show through 8 days of the show, so I guess if that counts for 10. You know, I can certainly share along with my other colleagues on the panel that if you've not attended a drupa in the past, first of all, please try to do it, but secondly, there is no way to prepare yourself for the scope of this show and the depth of new equipment, new innovative technology, and full-blown production systems that the vendors are able to set up, because it is such a long show and because, frankly, people come to that show and really buy. So I'm excited to be on this panel, and I also want to thank Deborah so much for what she's done for all of us, all of the partners throughout the day here. So
Thank you so much. And RMGT was right next door to HP, so when I could, I'd pop over there, take some pictures, and run back to my chair before anyone noticed I was gone. John?
Hi there, my name is John Palazzolo, and I'm head of marketing and sales for Adfos North America. And a little bit about what Adfos does is we really use light as a thermal source. So we are drying, curing, sintering, melting, doing all kinds of different thermal processes using light as the energy source. A lot of what we do is, of course, in the graphic arts market. So drupa, yeah, this was my 4th. I'm trying to remember if it was my 4th or 5th drupa. And it blows my mind every single time. And again, one of the things I really love about drupa is not only is it about products that are being introduced, but even technologies, what the future is going to be. So there's a lot of really cool technology demonstrations where you can really get a feel for, you know, what's going to be coming down the road in the next, 4 years. And being as many drupas as I've been to, to see technology that was a technology demo at one drupa, and then actually seeing the released product and what it's done in the marketplace in that 4 years. So I was there half the time, so I was there the last 6 days of the show, and it was great.
Thanks. And I'm going to ask a question to the 3 service providers, and Ryan, I have a question specifically for you because you're sitting here with a full industry voice versus for a product or a service. So, gentlemen, what is the significance of a drupa year in your company, and what do you think is the significance to the industry? And let me start with John. Adfos.
Thank you. So the significance, I mean, obviously, because roughly probably 85 to 90% of Adfos's business is in the graphic arts business. So we definitely we plan ahead. I mean, we're already starting to plan for the next drupa already, even before the show ends. And again, it because you see so many different technology demonstrations and things, I mean, it really drives the direction even of our company, because we see things that we know are going to be coming down the road in the next 2, 3, or 4 years. So it is a huge educational experience for us, and really drives our business, and a lot of our strategies and a lot of our goals and objectives come straight from drupa.
Thank you. RMGT. And I see my friend back there. Hello, we didn't do clappy today. I'm very sad.
So from our standpoint at RMGT, I mean, first of all, drupa is definitely a huge brand building and marketing awareness event. But as I mentioned earlier, the thing that has really become so compelling for us within the RMGT family is the tremendous number of orders that are placed right at the show. RMGT was fortunate enough to sign 70 orders for offset printing presses at this show, which, to be honest, when I flew over there, I never would have thought that 35 to 40 would have ever happened, and yet, 70 companies around the world invested in new offset print technology. Something that I would just also mention is that there's a relative stability in offset print. I recognize that the digital players are always trying and having to leapfrog their competition, and that's very healthy. That's the way that things continue to evolve. In our world, our releases were, to be honest, relatively incremental new releases, but they were in that very fattest part of a printer's overall turnover, which is still their offset end of things. And I think that's probably part of why so much money was spent and invested at that show on RMGT equipment.
Thank you very much and congratulations. Skaven Avanti.
Well, the significance for drupa for a software company like ours is the design cycles for the equipment manufacturers is just so long that the 3 years or 4 years between drupas gives them an opportunity that's a pinnacle event for them. So it's actually a lot of fun for a software company, having partnered with a bunch of the big players, that they put us under non-disclosure to help them get ready for that launch. So if there's integration points into equipment or into, say, a pre-press layer, we have a lot of fun in the year leading up to that to make sure that we can be part of their announcements that they're making there. So it is about work for us. The world's about workflow, not about can it do 110 pages and what's the new substrate that they can do. So the significance for us is helping those folks get ready in the context of workflow.
Thanks so much. So Ryan, this question is specifically for you.
Sure.
So what were you doing at drupa? What did you learn? And from that education, what are 2 technologies that you think all printers should be watching?
So I was there on behalf of Infotrends, of course, and it was really to see and walk the 20 halls. Actually, I think it was more like 18 that were utilized, maybe, or so on, and see how software was really and continues to affect. It's kind of the as I've heard it put, you're part of the gas that makes the engines go, right? Or how it work actually gets to these things and enables print output. So to see what's going on in terms of automation, efficiency, even new creative kind of things that are going on in terms of enabling print and output on the back side. So that's kind of what I was doing there. And you had a second part to that question. Which
yes, what are 2 technologies that every printer should be looking at right now as a result of what you learned at drupa?
So I think you still need to look in terms of your processes, in terms of what you're doing in your shop with your applications and work that you produce, to see how you can basically improve and optimize your steps. To that end, there was the cloud plays into that. Obviously, subscription services, and what that really means to the end print service provider is that in many cases, the entry point to get to that software has came down. So it's become a lot more accessible to print shops that may not have been able to afford it or implement it or use it in the past. So that's kind of one of the things I would say pay attention to for sure.
Do you have 2 things or just one thing?
Well, there was 2. It was
I'm
basically
sorry.
the workflow around automation
Okay,
and
I get
also
you.
the
And
cloud.
the cloud. Okay,
enabled.
my apologies. I'm going to start with RMGT. Did RMGT introduce any new products and services at drupa? And how can people learn about them now if they weren't there?
Thanks very much, Deborah. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, our new technology releases at the show, just to be totally candid, I viewed as being relatively incremental, but they're all completely focused on helping our customers reduce their manufacturing costs so that they can enjoy more profit, and also by removing bottlenecks in their workflow that they can increase the throughput of their company, which we feel are both pretty darn beneficial things. I mean, you want to improve your bottom line, it's all about the EBITDA. So we introduced a long Perfector series machine in a 24 by 36 inch format, which produces a full 16-page signature. And the part that was the incremental new technology is that we have onboard cameras now that literally scan the sheet for quality control to catch smudges or whatever might be there as a defect, and also to be able to check for color consistency. So routinely, as we were doing our presentations, in 5 minutes, we would produce a 1,000 sheet run of a 16-page signature. Then over on our digital end of things, we have a device that will be probably released sometime in 2017 that's called the DP7. This is a liquid toner-based digital press that has a 23 by 31 inch format. It operates at 6,000 sheets per hour, and we had basically standing room only crowds for the presentations on that throughout. And then on our large format press, which is in a let's say 28 by 41 inch format, we released some new technology in the feeding and delivery, and then also that same onboard scanning technology, all of which again is geared to keeping the presses running at a higher rate of speed and therefore producing more finished product.
And how can people learn about that now?
Good question. So you could certainly go to ryobimhi.com, which is our website, and if you take a visit there and ask for one of the representatives to get back with you, we'd be happy to share information there.
Thanks so much. John Adfos.
Thank you, Deborah. Yes, we introduced, we also had some, I would call, not monumental, but incremental improvements to some of our products. We've, again, listening to our customers and hearing really what they're wanting. We had an improvement to one of our series of systems called the M series, where we enhanced the reflector material that we used. We made it more robust. Some of the things that before were required tools, some of the filter replacements and things like that, we've now made toolless, so they can just very quickly, very easily maintain the equipment and get it back up and running again. And we did have actually one that was quite monumental, and we're also involved in the functional printing, I guess, or print electronics industry, and that includes, some of this 3D printing. And we're finding companies now that are using even metals, to make products. So literally, you need one of these, and you need it made of metal. And what we have now is a highly focused, almost to the point of laser, the energy densities that we're getting, but we're not using laser. We're using our bulb technology, but we're focusing that in, and so literally it's on a robotic arm, and as they're placing metallic pieces on, we actually melt and sinter that into a full product. So really, really cool stuff.
That's pretty incredible. You're always doing something sneaky over there in Adfos. They come all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. All of a sudden, out of nowhere.
Well, when you have really, really smart German PhD engineers, they get really creative. So.
Yeah, you're Adfos. You should pay attention to Adfos. They're always doing something really envelope pushing, quite frankly. Skaven Avanti.
Yeah, a couple of exciting announcements we made at drupa revolved around the booths that we were participating in. So HP put a lot of energy into their new layer for applications to be developed on top of, which was PrintOS. So we were giving technology demos. We were the first PrintMIS solution that was integrated right into PrintOS. So we had we were showing technology demonstrations of order estimates that were being turned into orders, which would automatically send all the parameters of the job down to the PrintOS layer, which was integrated into SiteFlow, which could then go down to a series of Indigo. So the jobs hitting enter in Avanti, no one had to touch that job again until it was actually in the output tray of an Indigo. So that was a cool demonstration to show off to folks. And then what Ricoh did inside their booth was they actually set up an entire print shop. Right from web to print front end, again through to engines and finishing. And we were part of that touchless workflow where orders were being created and submitted via a Marcom Central web to print portal, automatically creating the order inside of Avanti. Avanti could take those products and let the prepress layer downstream know in what Ricoh calls total flow. Let that know what what's the substrate, where's the location of the file to print, what quantity do I need to do of that, what are the finishing activities, and by a JDF send that further downstream, and then give us the information back up into Avanti, like how long did it actually run for, how much paper did I actually use, and so we use that information to update what was the cost of that job. The paper, we went through 420 sheets of A1 paper, deplete the inventory by that amount. So another great technology demo to let folks know you really can't get to that zero-touch workflow.
Thanks so much. So, what were a few things you saw besides your own products and services that you think will have an impact on the industry or will impact your own company in some way? And Ryan, you sit in a different space here, but you can still answer that question.
Sure.
However you'd like to.
So I think there's a couple of things to look at a little bit more long term. Even 4 years ago, the concept of kind of Industry 4.0 and it kind of evolved into Print 4.0 around this past drupa. Those kind of concepts of having data, more data, big data, being able to push it to the cloud, that kind of thing, but more importantly, how to take action on that information, because it's one thing to have this huge data stream and information, but what do you do with it? And we're really starting to see a close look at how companies and software companies are developing dashboards to really get down to the key performance kind of indicators or information to say, how do I make my operations better, how to make my business better, and so forth. So that's going to happen. One of the things that also was at drupa in a couple of different ways was just the robotic automation. So you saw that moving materials around, so to taking out the human labor kind of component to things, and also even one of the wide format vendors was using that as well to kind of place things on the table to set up for the printing even. I want to go back to what Stephen just said too, though, because that speaks to the automation part that I answered before. It's the fact that what's important to remember is that technology is already there. It's ready for printers to take advantage of. So it's you can get to that place, and you really should start to see what you can do incrementally to get to that kind of full automation kind of story, because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's been there for a while. It's just taken a little bit of time, because in our studies, that we do at Infotrends with the printers, we see that their pieces of that automation story have been taken care of, but not the complete picture. But it's there if you want to take advantage of it.
Thanks so much. Stephen?
Two important things from what I saw there, beyond some really cool technologies that the hardware guys can talk to. But in the software space, it was good to see the amount of investment and energy that the major equipment vendors are putting into that integration layer. So I use PrintOS as an example, so Ricoh with Total Flow, and OSE with Prisma, and Xerox with Free Flow. These are phenomenal integration platforms for folks like us to take advantage of. The other key thing that I saw that I thought was very cool was the advances that have been going on in web to print. So web to print as that customer portal, the past has been, it's a really simple way to submit jobs into the print shop. But what I saw from the web to print vendors was kind of web to print 2.0. So we're moving away from just a one direction path of information coming into a print MIS or into the print shop, but actually that those have become bi-directional. Not only are they sending information down to the workflow layers like a print MIS, but they're getting information back too. So the customer can go to that customer portal instead of calling the shop to get a status of their job. They'll just go to their portal so they'll be able to submit jobs. Great start, lousy finish. Now they can get data and information right out of the shop as well. So just right about across the board now, we've got the ability to have bi-directional integration into these portals. So what that means is eventually you're going to see a challenge in the past has been you've got your web to print platform, you've got your print MIS platform, there's two databases that you've got to try and keep in sync. Well, imagine the future where there's a big green button on that web to print portal that they push on that and it says get quote. They're not actually getting the quote from the web to print, but in a sub-second way they're going into the print shop. The MIS is generating that quote and sending it out just by clicking the big green button.
Amazing. Chris, GT.
Thank you. So first of all, just to finish up on, or to expand a bit on what the gentleman next to me just spoke about, what I've noticed is that a lot of our customers that are most successful have discovered ways to push parts of the acquisition process back towards their customers. It really helps to push a lot of cost out of things. So, and I think anyone that can do that and find a good way in their business model would be advised to, because, you've only got one choice in this world right now. The price of print is going to continue to have downward pressure. I think we all know that. It's just how it is. So if you're going to earn a better profit, you need to learn how to do your job better. And I got to say that when I walked around drupa, I certainly saw all kinds of really amazing new technologies, and a number of our vendors actually released a lot of neat new stuff. We represent a company called MGI. They're really quite well known in the decorative end of the business, is what I've called it. They've come up with some great new applications there, adding foil to packaging applications and those sorts of things, and that certainly caught a lot of certainly my eye, and I think a lot of the other attendees. But what I kind of kept focusing on as I'd walk through some of these booths that were honestly a little bit of the old school booths, both my own vendors and some of my competitors, is that machines that 3 years ago went 13,000 sheets an hour or booklets an hour or whatever it is per hour, all of a sudden we're going 20% faster, 30% faster in some cases, and also with a lot higher degree of automation so that you could process more work through your plant in a shorter period of time. As a businessman myself, I guess that's what I focus on. I think my customers all need to learn how to do more and more and more of that. So just one, for instance, is Horizon, which is one of our other lines. They came out with a new booklet making system that creates about a 25% improvement in the throughput of booklets. And, that kind of technology, while it's not as sexy and, quite as fully integrated to other platforms and that sort of thing, it's still a lot about the dollars and cents and the bottom line for the client. So those were some of the things I observed.
Thanks so much. John Adfos.
Thank you, Deborah. Some of the things that as I was walking around, and again, as I mentioned, we're somewhat involved in the print. I'm a simple guy, right? So I look at there's print to communicate, whether you're communicating an invoice or a bill or a statement or direct mail. Then there's what I call print to perform, and this is really functional types of printing. And walking around and seeing an MGI company is called Drop that. And Drop is actually using inkjet technology, and we're a partner with Drop, and they're actually printing with resistive and conductive inks. They're truly printing electronics. It's not just printing a circuit board. They're actually printing the transistors. They're printing the resistors, and to see that, it's really mind-blowing. And they're doing multiple different types of inks, literally. Push the button and you're printing a transistor and a resistor. So to see that kind of stuff. There was an application where it was actually for the government for tents, and so they're actually printing they're printing the tent, and embedded in the printing, they're printing the wiring that goes into the tent. So literally, they get there, they set up this tent, there's solar panels that are printed solar panels in the roof of the tent. The lights, the wiring, everything is printed. And so when nighttime comes, the lights come on, and there's literally no generators, just harnessing the power of the sun. The entire thing is printed. So just seeing that kind of technology and that kind of stuff happening is just amazing and mind-blowing.
I want one of those, by the way.
Yeah, I want one of those too. I think they should put that on Kickstarter. That'd be great. I'd love to have one too.
Thanks so much. In 2016, this year, drupa was referred to as the packaging drupa, although many also called it the inkjet drupa. What is drupa going to be in 2020, and how is your company going to fit into that? Ryan, do you have any predictions on what the drupa 2020 will be? Hard questions. I'm sorry. It's reality in the Printiverse. It's not scripted, friends.
Stepping on the cable there. So, yeah, I think what we'll continue to see, it might be like a packaging 2.0 kind of event, to be quite honest. And one of the things I think that will come out of that is, so you're just now, a lot of kind of digital packaging related equipment was on the show floor as you walked around drupa. But what has trailed that is basically the workflow and the software and the systems around the actual printing engine, so to speak. So I think you'll continue to see improvements in the software, the number of vendors, what their focus, and basically really talking about automation, because that's kind of dragging compared to where commercial print is really at today, so to speak, in some ways. And then of course there'll be different kind of things that are going to happen on the back side of that process too, around finishing and so forth. So I kind of think it'll probably be a continuation of what is started at the 2016 drupa. But let's see what everybody else thinks.
Skaven Avanti.
It's a good question. 4 years is a long time. I'm a software guy. That means we bring out a new release every single month. So to ask me what's going to go on in 4 years from now, I don't even know what's going to be happening 6 months from now. But it's fun to look out that far. I think the idea of print as a manufacturing will dominate. People will start to think of it more and more, not just as an art, but more of a manufacturing type thing, and start acting that way. So things like automation become important. Continuous improvement becomes important, that type of thing. I think the cloud is going to continue to play a role, so you'll see a lot more integration points across multiple companies through the entire print workflow, which is all dominated by the cloud, as opposed to older technology just sitting in the particular booths. Those would be the two things I would think.
Thanks so much. Chris, RMGT.
Well, I don't know how well I'm going to be able to predict 4 years down the road, but I would say that if I had any influence over it, I would love to see the print for profit drupa. That we would really be, let's focus on how to inject profit back into, an industry that has had its struggles in that area. Something that I do look back on and remember is the SIP 3, SIP 4 drupa. I want to say that might have been 3 to 4 drupas ago. And that was really all about, cross-platform integration of the setup of all devices, to try and push make-ready out of the process. Of course, digital was really in its infancy at that time, and digital just instantly leapt to, the theory of zero make-ready, where you're just using toner or inkjet to create your piece. Well, what ended up happening, in my opinion, is that whole SIP 3 revolution, quote unquote, that was started, I think it's probably 12 years ago now, has come to volition in so many ways, but they're relatively minor. They're these incremental improvements that create more profit to the bottom line. When I said earlier that the digital was, I guess, intended to leapfrog all of that make-ready, something that we've really discovered here over the last couple of years, and that I do think will also be part of the next drupa, is that as the less expensive form of manufacturing, which is still ink and water, continues and continues and continues to push downtime or make-ready time out of that process, I think a lot of folks are going to gravitate right back towards that, because the substrate or the supply item that goes onto the paper is tremendously important in the manufacturing of print. It always has been, and I think it always will continue to be. That's why I'd love to see the profitability back in print to become the next drupa theme.
And I'm sorry, were you saying SIP or ZIP? And what does that mean?
Okay.
CIP, what does that mean?
CIP is computer integrated pre-press, press, and post-press. And so at that time, Deborah, the concept was that one digital job ticket basically would flow right through someone's workflow, set up your pre-press for your plating, your press room to keep make-ready short, and even go to a paper folder, paper cutter, perfect binder, and do all of those setups. And if you look around the show, and certainly at a drupa, there's all kinds of that stuff that is going on, but it was initially brought into our minds really by that SIP 3 revolution going back 12 and maybe 16 years ago.
Thanks so much. John? Adfos.
Thanks, Deborah. A few things. Again, man, if I could predict 4 years into the future, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere, getting ready to rake in my
I think you
bazillions.
did sit on the beach somewhere, my friend.
I'm Italian. I mean,
naturally tan? Are you naturally that tan?
It just yeah, it just happens. Just from standing out waiting for the bus in the morning, it just kind of happens. So, a couple of things that some of my colleagues here touched on. The cloud. I mean, that continues to have, it's removing hardware, removing stuff from the individual and pushing it out to let that be somebody else's responsibility. Again, the printing is a manufacturing process. I think that is going to continue to happen. And you mentioned ink and water. I mean, how the chemistry, right? Better life through chemistry, right? And I'm not just talking about in Colorado, but how people are doing more with chemistry, to get away from some of the, somewhat, UV. It's a great technology. It has its place, but is it the most environmentally friendly? No, ink and water. Water and so we're seeing a lot of happening in the chemistry space. And again, the whether it's going to be called the greening of print, and making it more ecologically friendly by, again, looking at chemistries and what can we do to make it safer, to make it better for the environment, to bring the cost down so that then we can bring the profits up, right? So that's kind of what I'm hoping to see.
Thanks so much. And we're very fortunate that Carrie Sherburne, from What They Think, just walked into the booth, and so did Pat McGraw. You ladies, if you just come up for 1 second. I had just asked, this is just a bonus to the audience at home, a major bonus. I had said that the Drupa 2016 was referred to the packaging Drupa, although many people would also say it was the inkjet Drupa. What is the next Drupa going to be, and how should people start preparing for it?
I think there are two aspects. I know you were just talking about inks and things like that, so I think we're going to see a lot more development in the ink, if you want to call it that, the material that goes on the substrates. We're going to see a lot of that. The other thing is 3D. So functional printing and 3D. And for people should be really thinking about that now. At last Drupa, there were 3 or 4 companies that had 3D solutions specifically targeted at graphic arts. Most of it's additive manufacturing, not relevant to us, but there is a lot of relevance, and they should start thinking about that now, because it's not trivial to get into it, but there's a lot of opportunity. So I think those are a couple of things to really give a lot of thought to.
So I think one of the challenges that Drupa has is, as a show, is to figure out what their real niche is, because we see a huge surge in interest in even a show here around packaging. So it would be very easy to say that, it's going to be the packaging Drupa. And that isn't really a good idea, because there's this thing called Interpack that they also run, and is, there's an issue there. So, and I don't think that it's a good idea for Drupa to try and push itself into becoming the packaging show. Industrial printing, absolutely agree. I think industrial and functional printing, where you're building bespoke solutions that are marks on paper, I think, or other substrates. I mean, plastics, films. There's so many things that you can put marks on. So I think I think it might become the industrial Drupa.
So, and do they have an industrial show? We should ask them. So one of the other things, there were two kind of bumper sticker things that came out from 2 different executives in our industry, and one of them said, "Ink on everything." So you go into Target, and everything has ink on it, including your receipt when you walk out the door. And the other one is the imaging of things. We all know who's been saying that, probably. But so my article is probably going to be ink on everything and the imaging of things, because that's where it's going. It's beyond document printing, way beyond document printing.
Thanks so much. Bonus there. I was just on another show also, and to echo what some people on the panel said too, printed electronics I really think is something that most printers don't think has anything to do with them, but I saw somebody just take silver ink and print a circuit and light up a t-shirt. So there are some amazing things that you can do with printed electronics that really yes, you have to have some knowledge, but there's really an opportunity there. There's a crazy opportunity there, I really think. So I want to thank everybody again for joining the panel. Thank you for watching at home. Thank you, Paul, for coming early to the next panel, being in our audience from Solimar. And that's it. We're going to actually end in our, not really panel, we're just going to have a discussion in a few minutes to wrap up the Printerverse. But again, thank you all for your support on the panel. Thank you for the support of the industry, and thank you for the support, your support of the community. So thanks again. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right. Good.
Thanks for getting us back on time.
So you guys are doing some of the drying on the.
Yeah, we so